Hello guys, in this video we will talk about defining your strengths, weaknesses, needs, reactive patterns, and a couple of more things. This is part of a free YouTube series about creating your clear vision and an organized plan for your life ahead. I will put a link with all of the videos from this series in the description below. Today, we continue to create a little bit more clarity and a deeper understanding about yourself, because when you know yourself better, you can make better decisions about your life. And also, knowing yourself better helps you build the fundamental skill of listening to yourself, trusting yourself, and doing things your way, instead of constantly listening to somebody else, waiting someone else to tell you what you need to do, or blindly following somebody else's formula. You can also start practicing this skill right now with this video by listening to what I'm saying, but only taking what is resonating with you and ignoring everything else, or change it in a way that fits you the best. This will be one of the longest videos, but the good news is that you will be doing that only one time in your life, and then whenever we do a 3-month revision, you can review it, you can edit it, you can change it the way you want. Okay, so now I will show you how that part of the training looks like in the tool that we use for creating our vision. I will show you the structure, I will explain each part of it, and then after that you can do it on your own. If you haven't chosen a tool to create and work on your vision and plan ahead, I will put in the description below a link for the 3 options that I'm giving you for this training. So this is how it looks like in the Excel spreadsheet. The tab here is called Authenticity, and here are the different steps that we will be going through: strength, weaknesses, zone of genius, and so on. And this is how it looks like in the Alive software. Again, the structure and the information is exactly the same, it's just a different tool. Strengths, weaknesses, zone of genius, and all of the steps that we will be going through today. For some of you, when we start talking about strengths, weaknesses, needs, patterns, and so on, you will already know a lot of this about yourself, and it will be easy to fill everything in this form, and that's great. But for a lot of people, you will notice that you have a little bit of difficulty filling out some of those things, because maybe you have never thought about those things before. For example, some years ago, when somebody asked me what are my needs, I couldn't answer that question because I actually didn't know what are my needs. I didn't know that I have needs at all. I thought that I just need to make things work, and it doesn't matter if there are needs or no needs met. But the reality is that you have needs, no matter if you are aware of them or not. And if you do things that doesn't meet your needs, it will not work long term. And it took me some time to understand the concept of needs, to start notice them and start affirming them, first in front of myself and then in front of others. So my point is that if you have difficulties to fill out some of those things that we will be going through today, don't worry, you don't have to fill everything out, because the goal here is not to fill everything in a perfect way. The main goal is to open a space to think about those things. And every 3 months, as I said, we will do a revision, and every time you will review those things, you can edit it, you can change it, you can actually get used to them. And this is how you actually become aware of those things and start noticing it in your life, and then affirming it to yourself and to other people. Because one thing is to do an exercise for 30 minutes or 1 hour and then leave it, and totally different things is to do one exercise and then review it every 3 months. So because no matter how big of an aha moment you might have in this 1 hour of exercise, if it's just a moment, it will probably fade away. And if you are doing revision every 3 months, you will be able to solidify and integrate what you already know. So then you will be able to use it in your real life. That means that whenever you do this exercise now, you feel you can't feel it right, don't worry, leave it the way you feel it in the moment, and then whenever you review it after 3 months or after 6 months, you will be able to edit it and change it the way you want. And this is how, with time, you create this deeper understanding about yourself, and it becomes more solid. So the first part is defining your personal strengths. The idea here is to write different things that are your strength, that you are good at, that comes naturally to you, that even that maybe they come with some effort, you still do it with pleasure. For example, if I need to write down something about myself, some of my strengths, I can write something like organization, planning, routine, simplifying things, commitment, loyalty, honesty, integrity, things that I value in myself. Of course, your strengths might be completely different and even opposite to mine. The idea is to write things that are strengths for you. The most important thing about our strengths is to learn to own our strengths and use them, to be connected to them, to feel confident and enough about them, to not allow to yourself or other people to minimize your strengths. Like, for example, somebody can tell me, oh, you shouldn't be so organized. You don't have to plan everything. And they can say things like that. And of course, most of the people don't say it in a bad way, but they're actually minimizing some of my biggest strengths. So if I'm not aware that those are my strengths, I can start telling myself, well, maybe yes, I shouldn't be that organized. I shouldn't be creating plans for everything. But if I am aware and I know that those are one of the biggest strengths for me, I can actually say, well, these are my strengths. I can use them in a lot of situations. So that way, I'm not minimizing something that is really valuable in my life. If we are not aware that these are our strengths, then we will be a lot more prone to minimize them, whether we are aware that we are doing it or not. That's why it's really important to define your strengths and really own them, use them, connect with them, feeling confident about them, feeling enough with them. Okay, so now you can take some time, pause the video and write down some of your strengths. Again, don't worry if you don't know all of them and you don't write a lot of things. You can just write down a couple of things. So you can write it now or you can write it later. The next thing is defining your weaknesses. Here, the idea is to write different things that you are not good at, that does not come naturally for you, that they require more effort, but also then don't feel really pleasurable. For example, if I think about things that I'm not really good at, I can write things like networking, home chores, cooking, entertaining. I'm really not good when it's a big group of people and I need to entertain them. Of course, if I am speaking in front of people and I already have a script, it's for me a lot easier. But when we are in a friend's company, I'm not the star of the show. I'm usually one-to-one with somebody. Another interesting and funny thing that I wrote about my weaknesses is that I don't like going to museums and galleries, because most of my life, for some reason, maybe I have heard somebody talk about this, but I always thought that if people don't go to museums and galleries, they are not intelligent, they are not sophisticated, they are not really interesting people. And whenever I was pushing myself to go to galleries and museums whenever we are traveling with somebody and they want to go and visit those places, I would go with them, but it will be completely not interesting for me. So at some point when I was writing my strengths and weaknesses, I realized that I would just put this in my weaknesses and I would just be okay with that. So maybe you have some kind of weaknesses that you are pushing yourself for some reason. Maybe it's not a logical reason, but you push yourself to do it, but still don't feel good about it. So just put it in your weaknesses and be okay with it. And again, your weaknesses can be totally different than mine. If you are, for example, somebody that loves networking and loves meeting a lot of people, you can put that in your strengths and not in your weaknesses. And in your weaknesses, you can write things that you really don't feel good about. The most important thing about weaknesses, again, is to be aware of them and to be okay with them. From there, I have seen actually two approaches that are a little bit opposite. So the first approach is something that I heard from Dan Sullivan. Maybe you know him. He is leading one of the most interesting and famous mastermind groups in USA. And he's always saying that if you are working on your weaknesses, you will end up with a lot of strong weaknesses. So that means that, in his opinion, we need to focus on using and leveraging our strengths and maybe ignoring or giving to other people things that are our weaknesses. And the other approach is something that, for example, we can see in people like Grant Cardone, where he is talking a lot about how he is developing his weaknesses in order to win whatever he wants to do. He's talking a lot about doing uncomfortable things that he needs to push through them, and even if something is not pleasurable, he still do it. So he's more of an approach that working on your weaknesses that you know are a good skills can work for you as well. Here again depends what resonates with you and what actually works in your personal life. In my life, I have noticed that the first approach is something that is working for me. I am focusing on my strengths and to leverage them in a different ways in order to reach what I want. But as we can see, the second approach is also something that you can use. It depends on what works personally for you. In both cases, the first most important thing is to be aware and to know your weaknesses. And from there, you can start noticing which of those approaches works personally for you. Here, I did some explanation. For me, it's usually really nice whenever I'm doing my 3-month revision to remind myself those things. But if you don't like this text, you can remove it, you can change it, and or you can leave it like this. Now you can take some time, pause the video, and write some of the things that you think are your weaknesses. Again, you can just write things that first come to your mind, and then after 3 months, you will be able to change it, add things, or remove things if you want. The next thing that we will be talking about in this part is defining your zone of genius. Here you can write down the things that you like doing, and they also can be of service of other people. And usually those things reflect in some way your values. In the last video about defining your values, we talked about how your values are actually the gift that you have in order to be of service to other people. So when you do things that are connected to your core values, you feel meaning, you feel satisfaction with what you are doing. So you feel kind of purpose because those things are meaningful for you. They bring value. And here the idea is to write out things that you like doing, and they can be also help for other people with something they need. For example, in my case, I can write out things that create simple step-by-step training for people to create more clarity and plan in their life. I can do it for individuals, I can do it for companies. Another thing that I can write is I can create processes and automation for different activities. These are things that are reflecting my own values and something that can be of service to other people. The most important thing about our zone of genius is, again, to be aware of what are those things that we enjoy doing, that we feel meaningful, and also they can be beneficial for other people. And as I said, they usually reflect our values. And the end goal is to spend as much time as we can in our zone of genius, because in this way we feel the most fulfillment and the most meaning and the most satisfaction with what we are doing. And that's actually affects the whole way we are feeling about our own life. Now you can take some time, pause the video, and write down a couple of things that come to your mind about what can be your zone of genius. What are the things you really enjoy doing and they can be of service to other people. The next part is defining what works best for me or for you. Here the idea is to start observing our life and to notice what actually works personally for you instead of blindly following what other people are saying. So we basically start learning from our own life what is working for us instead of just listening what others say. Of course, we can listen other people, but then we need to experiment and see what works for us and what doesn't. For example, one of the things that I wrote in my part with what works for me is that I'm taking enough time to make a decision rather than forcing myself to make a decision just to make a fast decision. Because when you open YouTube and there are a lot of people talking about you need to make fast decision. And I was thinking that I need to make fast decision, but the more I was doing fast decision, the more I end up in a bad situation that I didn't want to be. So I realized that whenever I'm taking some more time to allow in some way the decision to clear itself for me, then I'm a lot confident in those decisions and I take the decision with a lot more calm and stability, and then this decision is a lot better for me instead of if I'm forcing this decision. So I wrote this down in what works for me because I need to remind myself every couple of months in every revision that this is something that is working in my life. So whenever I'm in this automatic thought that I need to make fast decision, I can remind myself, all right, that's not working in my life. Maybe it's working for somebody else. Maybe it's working for you. And if it's working for you, you can write down making fast decisions. But in my life, it doesn't work. So I need to remind myself what is working in my life. Another example for me personally is that I want and I kind of need to have a clarity and a plan to do something because it makes me feel very stable, very focused, and very calm whenever I'm doing something. If I don't have clarity and I don't have plan, I'm really chaotic. I'm doing a lot of random stuff, and basically I'm wasting a lot of my time and energy. So for me, it's really important to remind myself the moment I feel not clear, the moment I feel a little bit more chaotic, I need to create clarity and to make a plan. These are some kind of examples that I can give you from myself. Again, that might be totally different for you, that might be totally opposite for you. So you need to write down whatever you have noticed that is working for you. And the most important thing about this part is just start observing your own life and notice and embrace what personally works for you instead of trying to do things the way somebody else says it should be. Because whenever people are sharing something, they're sharing things that work for them, but you never know whether they will work for you or not. You can listen to them, you can experiment in your life, but then you need to see if they actually work for you. And I'm saying this because I spend a lot of time just following other people, whatever they're saying. And if it was not working for me, I was thinking that the problem is in me. And the problem was that I was not listening what is working for me. Yes, sometimes you can make mistakes and maybe you are not applying the things that they're saying in the best way. But if it's happening again and again, maybe it's time to see that something else might be working for you instead of just blindly following somebody else's formula. So take some time now and write down what are the things you already know are working for you. And again, write down whatever comes down to your mind naturally. And then after 3 months, whenever you do your revisions, you will edit it and you will make it something valuable for you with time. The next part is defining your needs. And here the main idea is to write down everything that you need to feel good in your everyday life. And as I said in the beginning, some of you might already know what that is, and some of you might have difficulties defining your needs. But you can just start writing down some of those things, and with time, you will start to observe them a little bit better, and you will be able to define them a little bit better. This part, I have divided into 4 different needs: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So in those different parts, for example, in the physical part, you can write things like sleep, food, exercise, rest. And a lot of those needs will be similar to a lot of us, and that's normal, but you might have slightly different things, different flavors that you want to put emphasis on. Like for example, in sleep, one of the things that I wrote is enough sleep. Not too little, but not too much, because sometimes I have tendency to oversleep and I need to remind myself that that is usually not making me feel the best. So I need to withdraw if I am sleeping too much in a lot of days. I know that's not the case for everybody, but for me it is. Another thing you can write down is how much hours usually you feel best sleeping. For example, in some period, maybe you find out that 6 hours are enough. In another period that you have a little bit more stress, that you have a little bit more things that going on in your life, you might need a little bit more sleep. Another personal thing that I have noticed about myself is whenever I'm drinking a hot drink, usually kind of latte or cappuccino or something like this, my whole system relaxes. So for me, one of the things that I always remind myself that a cup of hot beverage really makes me feel grounded and stable and calm. Another thing that I know work for me and that I really need is whenever I'm working to make regular breaks the way it is here in Focus. That's why one of the reasons I put a timer, because I know that whenever I'm working, for me the best is to work 50 minutes and to have rest for 10 minutes. And in those 10 minutes, I can do whatever I want. This is an idea taken from the Pomodoro timer. Usually the Pomodoro, I think it's 25 minutes and 5 minutes break or something like this, but you can do it the way you want. I usually do it 50 minutes work and 10 minutes break. And I know that if I'm taking my breaks at the end of the day, I will feel a lot better. If I'm not taking breaks, I will feel a lot more exhausted and tired at the end of the day. So I remind myself every 3 months about those things. So these are a couple of examples that you can maybe see about yourself and write down. An example about a mental need can be going for a walk. If you know that going for a walk really helps you feel clearer and relaxes you, maybe write down going for a walk every day. One big example for me about a mental need, and I can write it also down in emotional need, is listening to wisdom. It might be a different YouTube video or a podcast or something like that. It might be connected to something I learned or something like a philosophy. So whenever I am having it in my day, it helps me to relax, it helps me to recharge. And there was one period of time when I was feeling really negative and really down, and I didn't know what exactly am I missing. And I noticed that I'm not listening those inspirational videos or podcasts to learn something, even small aha moments. And those are not for knowledge. For me, aha moments are not connected to knowledge, but there are still micro aha moments during the day that gives you micro relaxation in your physical body and gives you a dopamine hit, and they really makes you feel good. So this I know for myself that I need to listen some kind of YouTube video or podcast or some kind of philosophy that helps me have this kind of a beautiful moment, and that helps me feel a lot better in my day. So these are some examples of different mental needs. If you have noticed for yourself that there are things that make you calm, that make you relax, that makes you create a little bit of feeling of joy, feeling of satisfaction, feeling of purpose, you can write those things down as your needs. As emotional needs, that can be one example that I really like is being authentic. I think that this is one of the biggest emotional needs that everybody has, to be authentic. And whenever you are masking or whenever you're pretending something, you are actually suppressing your personality, and this is actually creating a bad emotional state. We not always feel that, but it creates a contraction in ourselves, and then it creates all sorts of negative effects after that. So one of the emotional needs that we all have is just being authentic. Another thing that you can experiment is how much of a connection with other people you need, because we all need connection, but some people need less of a connection and other people need more connection. So one of the ways you can experiment is just during 1 week, you can go out 2 times, you can go out 4 times, you can go out 6 times or 7 times, and you just notice when those interactions become some kind of tiring instead of exciting. For me personally, I'm more of an introverted person, so whenever I did this experiment a couple of times, and I always found that my best place is to have 2 times social activities during the week, because I noticed that if I'm doing a little bit more activities, social activities with other people, then I start to feel a little bit more tired, a little bit more exhausted. And another thing that I noticed is that I'm starting to get influenced by other people's thoughts and ideas if I'm too much with other people. But on the other hand, if I have very few interaction with people, that makes me feel really isolated and again, it's not a good emotional state to be. So for me, I know through experimenting that the best sweet spot is to have at least 2 social interactions. This is my emotional need during the week. So even when I'm planning my week, I'm planning to have at least 2 social events. Sometimes it happens, sometimes are more, sometimes are less, but I know what is my need. So you can experiment with yourself and just notice what is the sweet spot for you about social interactions, where you feel energized and you feel great about those social interactions instead of feeling deprived. Another example of emotional needs can be actually one of those love languages, like words of affirmation. If your love languages is words of affirmation, this is kind of your emotional need. You need this to feel seen. You need this to feel heard. You need this to be to feel good in your everyday life. So if this is a need of yours, you can communicate it with other people. These are a couple of examples about emotional needs that you can write down. Think about your own life. Think about what you need and write it down. And the last one is spiritual needs, or I call it a relationship with life. One of the things that I see as a universal spiritual need is to do some hobby or work that you truly love. Maybe that's not your work, maybe it's outside of work. You can do something that you feel connected with, that reflects your values, that is part of your zone of genius. But working on something that you really enjoy is kind of one of the things that really connects you with life and this life energy. And if you feel like there is something in particular that helps you create a better relationship with life, with God, or whatever you are believing in, you can write this down. For me, I have wrote things even like being in beautiful places, because I really enjoy being in beautiful places. That really makes me feel great. If I have a beautiful view, that is something that is therapeutical for me. So I have also that kind of things written down in spiritual needs. I'm not sure if they're in particular big needs, but I notice that whenever I have a beautiful view, when I'm in a beautiful place, or I'm watching the sunrise, this is one of the things that really makes me feel great about my day. The most important things about your needs is to observe them and to be aware of them, because those are the things that make you feel good in your everyday life. And whenever you know what those needs are, you can start meeting those needs in different ways. And if you don't feel good about your life, you can come here, see which need is not met, and how you can meet this need in a way that feels good to you. You can take some time now, pause the video, and write down whatever it comes for you about those 4 kinds of needs, or you can write it later. The final part of today's training is patterns to notice and react differently. Here, the idea is to become more aware of our reactive behaviors and to be able to notice it when it happens, so we are not staying too much in our reactive mental or emotional states and behaviors. The less we are in our reactive state, the more we are in our calm and productive state. People usually have 1 to 2 things that they are reactive about. In the surface, the situation that we get reactive might be totally different, but on the back end, we are actually reacting to 1 to 2 things. There are different ways to find what we are reacting to, but for me, the most simple way is to notice what we are getting angry about. If you have a situation that you are still angry about now, you can use it to make this exercise. But the idea is from now on to start noticing all of the situation that makes us angry. And it doesn't matter if they're really small situation or big situation, because as I said, on the surface, the situation can be totally different, small, big. But in the back end, we are reacting to the same things. And the idea is that we want to find what are those 1 to 2 main things that we are reacting. When you have a situation that makes you angry, the idea is to pause and to question it, to start analyzing it, to ask, why exactly am I angry in this situation? And in the beginning, you will notice that you are giving a lot reasonable answers. But when you keep asking, why is this actually making me angry, you will find the main reason. You might need to ask 3 or 4 or 5 times, but you will end up with the main reason. Let me give you an example with one of my favorite situations. I was spending some time, about 2 months, in Cusco in Peru, and while I was there, I found a restaurant that they were having a really nice sweet potato fries. And the problem for me was that whenever I go there, they were really slow in making them. And one day I came up with the brilliant idea that I will go for a walk, and in the beginning of the walk, I will go order the sweet potato fries, and then I will do my walk for 1 hour and 1.5 hours, something like this. And when I come back, they will be ready for sure. So this was my big plan, and I did that. I went there, I ordered the fries, and then I went to my walk. After about 1.5 hours, I came back and the fries were not ready. I needed to wait maybe 10 or 15 more minutes, and that made me even more angry. And maybe you will not be angry in that kind of situation, but again, here is to get to know ourselves better. And this situation was getting to know myself better. For you, some situation that make you angry will be probably totally opposite for me. So in this case, this small situation made me feel really angry. When the fries were ready, I took them and I started walking to my apartment, but I was really angry. So then I noticed that I'm angry, and I stopped and started asking myself why I'm angry. And again, the reasonable responses will come up first. Well, they're too late. I ordered it 1.5 hours ago. It cannot be so difficult for them to make this order ready after 1.5 hours. And then I'm asking again why I'm so angry that they were late. And then I can answer something like, well, I gave them enough time. They should be ready by this time. And then I can ask again, well, why I'm angry that they're not ready by this time. And then after questioning a couple of times, I realized that the reason is because I think those people does not respect me. So in the surface, that might seem really unreasonable to think that way, but this was what I was reacting to. I was making this small situation mean that those people don't respect me. And then I'm reacting to this meaning. And that makes me angry. When I started examining a lot of the situation after that make me angry, I realized that on the surface there can be really a lot of different situations. But the reason that they make me angry is because I make those situations mean that people don't respect me. And I'm actually reacting to this. So I already know the next situation that somebody makes me angry, it will probably be because I make it mean that something in this situation or some person in this situation don't respect me. And that might be true, that might not be true. The fact that I'm aware of this gives me the possibility to communicate that and to clarify the situation and understand, is it really a disrespect or is it something I'm just making up? For whatever reason, I'm not really a fan of defining why I'm reacting the way I'm reacting. For me, the most important thing is to become aware of what I'm reacting and then clear this situation. You can have a conversation and really understand, is it a disrespect or not? Of course, this makes sense only if people are really close to you and it makes sense to have those conversations. With me, in the situation with sweet potato fries, it doesn't make sense to go and clarify this situation because it's obvious that those people are not disrespecting me. They're acting the way they're acting with everybody. Maybe in this particular situation, something happened and my fries was too late. But it doesn't matter because I know that what makes me angry is that I feel disrespected. But in this situation, it doesn't matter to clarify it with them and I just can walk away. So whenever you have different situation, you just start asking yourself, why exactly I'm angry about this? And you will see that in the bottom of it, you're reacting to one or two things. For me, it's I make it mean that they're not respecting me, or sometimes I'm making it mean that people don't want me. So this is my second thing that I'm reacting to. For someone else, the things that you're reacting can be that you make it mean the situation that people are not considerate with you, that you make it mean that you are not enough about something. You can make it mean that you are not loved, you are not appreciated, you are not considerate, and so on. The idea is to have at least 15, 20 situations that you analyze, and you will definitely see what is the pattern, because in the bottom of it is always one to two things. And knowing what those things are gives you power because you can react in a different way. I remember another funny situation that I had, that I was living in a neighborhood that was a close community, and we were entering this neighborhood. It was quite big and there was about 5 to 6 entrances in this neighborhood, and we used a cart in order to enter it. And I was using usually only one entrance, the one that was close to my place. But one time I was going around and I actually was about to enter from another entrance that people don't know me there. And I went there, I gave my card, and the person there told me that my card is expired, so he cannot let me in. And I immediately explain him where I'm living, what is the condominium, and that I already know everything inside and so on. I was trying to convince him to let me in. But he said, I cannot let you in because your card is expired. And I really got angry. Again, for some of you, that might be super stupid situation, but the idea is what I am personally reacting to. So I get angry about this and I was really upset. I decided that I will go to the entrance that the people know me. And while I was walking, I just noticed that everything in me is just getting really angry. And I paused. I noticed that I'm angry. I paused and I was asking, why I am reacting, why I am so angry about this. And I already knew that I'm reacting usually to people when I make this situation mean that they don't respect me. So I immediately knew that I'm making this situation mean that this person does not respect me, and that's why he is not letting me in. And the moment I realized that this is just my brain making situation means ridiculous things. So I was able immediately to regulate myself and to stay calm. And I sometimes even just start laughing because I'm making those unreasonable connection, what somebody is doing their job and what I'm making it mean. So I was able to relax and regulate a lot more quickly than staying in this angry state for a long time, and maybe then calling somebody and saying, well, this happened and this person doesn't let me in, and I'm just even more drowning in my own anger. So just the thing that I'm aware of what I'm reacting can help me notice this, neutralize it, and regulate to a more calm state. We will always react. All of us have those main things that we are reacting, and we will always be reacting to those. But the idea is how long you are staying in those really unpleasant and negative states. So knowing your patterns, knowing what are you reacting to will give you the power to snap out of those states a lot faster. If you have a situation now that you are still angry about, you can analyze it a little bit and try to find out what is the root pattern that you're reacting to. And the idea is, in future, whenever you get angry, just notice it, pause, and start asking yourself. Whenever we know what we are reacting to, we write it down here. So for example, I can write, I make situation mean that people don't respect me. I make situation mean that people don't want me. Whenever I realize that these are people and situations that I want to create clarity, I can have a conversation and know whether my reaction is reasonable or unreasonable. And most of the time is unreasonable, but you still need to clarify it. And knowing your patterns give you the power to snap out of those situations a lot faster. Whenever you have 10, 15, 20 situations that makes you angry, you will most definitely start seeing what is the pattern. And if you notice that you're reacting to something else that is happening often in your life, you can still write it down in this part and remind yourself this every 3 months. Every 3 months we go through reading those things, reminding ourselves, and then the more we remind ourselves those things, the more aware of them we are in our everyday life. And of course that means that we will react a lot better. Alright guys, that was it about this training. This is, as I said, a little bit longer training, but the good news is that you will do it only one time in your life, but you will gain a lot of knowledge and a lot of awareness about yourself. If you have any comments or question about any part of this training, let me know in the comments below, or you can leave your favorite emoji as a comment, because this will help me a lot with the YouTube algorithm, because the more comments and likes I have in the video, YouTube will understand that this information is valuable. In the description of this video, you will find a link with all of the videos from this series about creating your clear vision and an organized plan for yourself. And if you want to have every training of this series in your inbox, you can sign up for my email list and you'll have all of the trainings in your inbox. Subscribe, like this video, put a comment with your favorite emoji, and see you in the next one.